the Gin's treasure. It has been far too long. Over 2 months, in fact, since my last video. But I'm excited to finally have returned with new, fun, exciting styles, one of which I'll teach you today. Today we're gonna go over a new style of ring that I recently learned. And in this past 2 months, I haven't just been doing nothing, I promise. I've been busy with the markets and wire wrapping to keep up with my inventory at the markets where I sell, as well as a very exciting fashion show, which I was one of the designers. I was designing some crowns for some of the characters, as well as my rings, earrings, and pendants on the models on the runway. It was quite a ball. And I hope actually to obtain some of that raw footage and upload it and share it on my channel with you guys, so you get to see what fun, exciting stuff we're doing for events such as fashion shows. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is Gin's Treasure. Let's get ready to make a ring. So for our ring, there are some like blackish hued tiger eye beads in here, as well as some lapis lazuli, and I think I want to do we'll do a lapis lazuli, so you can see that royal blue. It's a really deep dark blue hue on these beads. And then of course I just kind of grabbed some random wires. So I have copper plated or silver plated copper and gold plated copper. We're just gonna stick with the silver today. And in fact, I don't even need this spool of the 20 gauge wire, because I actually found a good amount of scrap wire from a piece I'd made yesterday. I accidentally pulled this length of 20 gauge wire, thinking it was the 24 gauge wire, which we will also use 24 gauge wire, silver plated copper. But yeah, I pulled, so I have quite an excess of this. And if you've seen the ring tutorial videos that I've made before, basically the amount of 20 gauge wire that we use for those, we're just going to double it. So that goes into part of the new style. So for me, I would say, let's see how long this wire is. So this is about a little less than my entire wingspan, but here, let me show you how much we'll need. So here's an easy way to measure it. We'll do pinch down, so you can see the tip of the wire meets the base of my pinky, and we'll wrap that around. So 1 time, 2 times, and 3. So then right there, that should be more than enough wire. Well, hold on, let me actually see how much that is. Uncoil. And then if we fold that, so now we have that length, and then we'll pinch down, and then this loop here, we'll pretend that that's a wire tip, and then we'll fold it 1 more time to kiss this loop to the 2 wire tips, and then we'll straighten that out. And the idea is that if I were to clip this into 4 equal in length wires, which we will actually, the idea is that it should be enough to be able to fully wrap around whatever finger you want for the ring, with some excess wire as well. So it looks like we've accomplished that mission. We'll go ahead and clip and clip, clip. I double clipped this one. So now we have those 4 equal in length 20 gauge silver plated copper wires. Then we're just gonna do from the 24 gauge spool, I'm just gonna pull out an entire wingspan worth of wire. It will definitely be a lot more than I need, but that's just kind of an easy eyeball measurement without having to get all technical and pulling out a ruler and figuring it out for my viewers at home as well. So now we have our 24 gauge wire, pretty long back there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna kiss the tips together and then just zip tie all the way down to find a loop at the bottom. And that loop determines the halfway point equidistant between the two tip ends. And what we're gonna do is actually, we'll keep that loop, and then these 4 20 gauge wires, we're gonna pinch them all together so that they're parallel and resting on top of each other like this. None of them are twisting. They all wanna stay flat. Well, you want them all to stay flat. They will want to actually twist. So ignore what they want. It's about what you want today. So we're gonna thread all 4 of those through on that loop, and then just kind of eyeballing approximately the middle here. We're gonna have a lot of excess length of this wire, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be precisely the middle. And we'll just pinch down with our fingers so you can see how on the back side is how this wire comes, and then on the front side, this wire is pinched between my thumb and my index finger, as well as what's pinching all 4 of these wires together, right? So I'll give you kind of a closer 3-dimensional look at how I'm holding this. I mean, it's not too scientific, right? You're just pinching it. And then from there, we're just gonna begin our coils, and you wanna go really gentle. And actually, so both of my wires are coming out this direction, and the wire that I'm not working with, I tend to wanna move that around so that's tucked in under my arm and out of the way. Easier for me to work with. And then let's zoom in a little bit. So you can see almost immediately my wires, they got kind of mangled, so it looks like that as opposed to that, right? So if you're getting a lot of trouble with that, one thing you can do is with a flat pair of pliers, you can pinch down on either side of where your coils are. So right now, actually I don't recommend this side. You would want it pinched down on this side. And I do see that the camera's getting blurry right there, but it'll still work. I'm working on improving my camera skills, and part of that means just as I do my tutorial, I'm watching through the screen to make sure I can see what you guys see, as opposed to if the camera loses focus or anything. Which I'm hoping to get a new camera phone, so hopefully that can improve my videos as well. So you can see I've maintained all 4 are parallel, and I've done a few coils. I'll go ahead and do a few more. And remember, we're not tugging super tight. We're just making sure that all our wires are not getting tangled in there. Another thing you can do is kind of so this is the top wire, obviously, this is the bottom wire, and you can kind of bend them out so that way they don't, tangle up on each other. So as you coil along, they're not getting mixed up. Another thing to do is just kind of press down on either side of the coiled portion. And then once you have a good amount of coils like that, we're actually I'll switch it up. Because I teach classes, and I've seen that some people are actually more comfortable with just the hands and not using the pliers. But for me, I definitely am more comfortable using the pliers. I find that the flat fingers of the pliers are easier than my bulky human fingers. As well, I can get a stronger grip on it as opposed to my greasy, sweaty fingers. So I just pinch down with the flat pliers right on top of the coils. And I'm just double checking to make sure all my wires are parallel and straight and not twisted before I do this, because I don't want to pinch and then kind of with a sturdy grip, pinch any twisted wires, because that's gonna kind of lock them into a twist. Whereas we wanna lock them in flat, right? So as we coil along, we're keeping an eye on those 4 parallel 20 gauge wires. So if you've seen my past ring tutorials, let's not let our bead slide away. We'll just tuck it right in there. If you've seen my past videos, then you know that generally the only thing that's looking different with this new style of mine so far is that instead of 4 wires, I have 2. And I recently discovered that 4 is stronger than 2. Who knew? And what I mean by that is that with this thicker band, the ring band, I've noticed on my past rings that with just the 2 wires being coiled together, the band, which is the ring, the actual ring part that goes around your finger, is not very strong. And it's very malleable. And so by doubling up on the wire, we're strengthening the band, and so it's not so malleable. So for example, if I were to accidentally sit on the ring, it wouldn't completely crush it, which truthfully, it wouldn't be the end of the world, because you could just, bend it back and bend it back to a ring size that you could slide your finger through. It's not really a problem, but it is kind of, in some way, crushing, pun intended, to see when the band is crushed. You're like, oh, even if you can restore it, it's still kind of like at first sight, it's like, oh, that's kind of upsetting. All right, so we've got a few. Oh, in fact, I gotta run to my car real quick, so I'm gonna put you on pause because I forgot my ring tools. So give me 1 sec. And in the blink of an eye, I'm back. So you'll notice we have the rod, and on the rod we have those red numbers. You can see those are the ring sizes. So it'd be like a 6, 7, 8, and then if you wanted an 8.5, you just go right in the middle between 8 and 9. And then this is, I guess we technically don't need this tool for this tutorial demonstration, but this would be a good tool for you at home if you did not know your ring size. So it's like, okay, that's a 7, upside down 7. So you could see that's size 7. Well, does that fit me? No, that's too small. So then that must mean that finger is a 7.5. Boom. So that's what this tool, that's the entirety of this tool right here. It's got all the numbers. A 0 for maybe, I don't know, an infant or something, or a little fairy. And then all the way up to a size 13 for a giant of a person. And all those numbers on that ring sizer tool line up with this. So for example, that size 10 ring would fall on this red 10 right here. You don't believe me? Fine, I'll prove it. So here's the 10. And we drop it down, and look at that. Right on top of the 10. Now you believe me. Okay, so this tool will be used. It'll be important for us if, say, let's just do, for this tutorial, for the sake of learning, I'm gonna go for a size 7. Size 7, right there. So basically all I have to do is create this band so it can wrap around and fit snug on that size 7. With stopping before I fully wrap the band around, because then we gotta add the bead. So one thing you'll notice actually is you could see how it kind of starts more or less in the middle and then it grows outward in this direction. And what that means is it's eating up the length of this wire. Now to maintain a good balance, what we're gonna do is switch it around and then start coiling outwards in this direction, which eats up this wire and therefore maintains a balance in the length of wire. So right now you can see the wire that I've been wrapping with is the shorter wire, whereas this one has more length. All right, so as I've switched around, we can now, actually I wanted it on this side. We can now take our flat pliers and pinch down right on the edge of where that last coil was, and then maybe a little bit, however it fits your grip. What's important is that you have a good grip. And then we can continue to coil along. And as we coil along as well, what I'll show you in just a second is that we want to make sure that the coil, the banded portion here is flat. So what we do is, first of all, we're gonna inspect our wires and make sure that they're not getting twisted, like my fingers just demonstrated there. And there we can see they're all nice and flat and parallel with each other. And then you can kind of see there's like this coiled portion here. The last coils that I just did, they look different than those coils. And that's because I haven't done the press. So originally my grip was here, right? And I was doing coils. Now I'm gonna scoot over my grip and pinch down on those fresh coils and then continue to coil further. Another thing too, which you might have caught I just did, is I'm noticing every now and then that my coils are loose. So I'll give you an example, an exaggerated example. So it's important to go slow, especially at first, as this is like an unfamiliar thing to you. And the slower you go, the more you can learn faster. Therefore, the faster you can get faster and faster and faster. Does that make sense? I hope so. But here, I wanted to show you this. So if you notice, these coils on the right side are really nice and tucked, whereas these ones are a little bit sloppy. All you have to do is just pinch down on these 4 wires, like out here, and then just slide in. And as they slide in, look at that, psh, tucked in, easy. And then you just press down with the flats, and that kind of clamps them to be tucked nice and tight. So I'm just kind of repeating this process, and so I got a little quiet right there, is because there's not really any new information, but I am focusing more on getting the camera to really not get blurry and do a good job of capturing what this whole process is. Because if you think about it, we've really only done one step so far, right? I've done a lot of over-explaining this step, so it might seem like there was a lot, but really all we're doing is just, we're adding this 24 gauge wire to the 4 20 gauge wires, not to get confused with all those numbers. We're adding 124 to the 20s and coiling And that's it. That's the only step we've really done so far. We've just coiled and coiled and coiled and coiled, but it's all the same step. And we're going slow, making sure that our 20 gauge wires are not getting twisted. Everything is nice and neat. And then we're also making sure to pinch in and keep our coils nice and tight. And then we'll slide the pliers over, clamp down, stamp it all into position. And I know I said this before, but I think that this is actually a really good demonstration. If you notice, this wire out here is just like way gone, out in right field, out of the way. And it's worth it if you're trying to wrap and you're like getting frustrated because the loose wires that you're not currently working on are long, right? You can see that wire sliding out over here. It's a long wire, and if it's getting in your way, take a second, get it out of your way. It's just gonna create frustration in the whole process if it continues to be a nuisance. So resolve that. Take a second, resolve that, and then you can get back on and coil in peace. So you'll notice we are getting towards the end here, and when we get closer to the end than we are on this side, it's a good opportunity for us to take another second. So here's what I do. I slide that all the way out, and now you can see, oh, now it's this one's turn to have the shorter length, right? And we need to eat more of this wire by doing more coils on that side. Bring that back closer so you can see, you could even see it here. We're closer to the end of these wires than we are closer to the end of these wires, thus indicating that this wire would be longer than this wire. So we're gonna switch again back to our original side, which is this wire, and give it a few more coils. But before we do that, let's just go ahead and use this tool. Remember, we're lining it up with the 7, and for when I'm getting the measurement, I find it important. It's a personal opinion. Maybe you have a different opinion, and that's fine. But I find it important to, when I begin to wrap on the rounded edge as opposed to just directly on the 7. So what I mean by that is, like, I don't do this and then press down and wrap around. It's still on the 7, but I approach it from the round side first, just to kind of help get that roundedness beginning. And then from there, I can slide it under and have it come around to the 7 like that. And so the result is that instead of this being flat on the back side, having like a little flat part, it's rounded. Right? So here is actually about where I want to be. So maybe we won't do more coils. What we're going to do is get ready for step 2. And step 2 involves the bead. Or phase 2, because there's different steps, but this is phase 2. So I'm going to split. So make sure that far outside one is the one that I pull on first, and then the middle left, so that we have 2 left here and then 2 right going outwards that way. We're gonna do the same thing with these sides, making sure we don't confuse our wires and they don't get twisted. So if you get a closer look, you can see the far left, far right, and as you can guess, middle left goes to the left, middle right goes to the right. Okay, and then also from here, the way that our wires have finished is, okay, so from henceforth, this will be the top side, right? So everything here is the top side or the outside, whereas the inside is gonna be the bottom, what I'll call sometimes the bottom or the outside. I'll try to call it the outside and inside because that makes more sense, but in my head I call it the top and bottom, where this is the top and this is the bottom side. So we want our wire to be ending on the bottom side, so that way we can actually pull it and it comes out underneath on the bottom side, but in between the two wires. And I'm talking, of course, about this 24 gauge wire. And we should have it that way on both sides. So as you can see, for example, the wire comes around the top and it goes all the way around the top to find wrapping around the right two 20 gauge wires, and then now it's coming out the bottom between the two wires, but coming from the bottom. Now we're gonna take both ends of the 24 gauge wire and we're gonna grab our bead and thread it through. So the way that we thread it is that one side will come, there's the hole. One side will come through this way, where the other wire will come through the opposite way. Pro tip too, I just thought of this because I experienced this the other day, but before you get started, make sure your bead hole will fit both wires through, because sometimes the hole is too small and then it's like, well, I did all this work and now I can't even get the bead that I wanted on. So it'd be good to check that in advance. And then we're just pulling these wires all the way through. It's kind of like if you've ever wrapped a Christmas gift, when you pull on a bow tie and then pull it tight and everything comes together. So that's what we've just done, and you can kind of see how this is forming into a ring. Now, this is pretty similar, right? Pretty similar style to what I've done in my past videos. Here's where it's gonna be a little different. So we're gonna fold these so that if these, let's get a closer look. So if these are the wires that come on top, then to keep it symmetrical, it would have to be these wires that come down on top, right? So we have under, over, under, under, over. You see that design? Great. All right, and then we're just gonna pull our 24 gauge wires really tight. We don't wanna have any gaps or anything. So here, let me just tell you now. So the whole thing that's exciting me about this new style of mine, that's really just kind of like an evolution, is that somebody brought it to my attention that not everybody likes to wear their ring where the bead protrudes on top of the ring. Some people want their bead to be resting kind of in the ring, like that. So, for example, here's what we're going for. And in the past, my rings have looked more like this, where the bead is more on top. I'm not gonna do like a full example because I don't wanna mess up my alignments. But basically, that's the difference. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see. So the unders, you can see, if we look closely again, we can see, so these are the unders and these are the unders. The unders, they start out under, but then they come up. So they fold up and around over the top there. And in fact, that's what this 24 gauge wire is gonna latch onto, is these two under wires that just folded up on top. So we'll give it one. There's the one. We'll go two. So there's the two. We'll do four total. So 3, 4. 4 is good. We'll stop there. See how that's looking? So the unders, they came under and then they went over, and right where they went over is where we attached our bands. I'll do this one more time on the other side as well. So we can see that these are under, and they're the ones that are gonna get folded. By the way, it's important that you keep of the two wires, that those two wires stay flat and parallel as well. As they twist and curve, they're not getting twisted like that, right? They want to stay flat even as they do their bends and stuff. Okay, so now that we've got our under folded over, now we're gonna take that 24 gauge wire and just wrap it around one. We can pull that tight. 2, 3, and we'll stop at 4. Now we're completely done really with this 24 gauge wire. So what we're gonna do, and I'll do a more fine job of clipping it, but I just kind of want to get these long strands out of my way. So these guys, they're gone. But you can look closely and see, like, I have these little stubs that remained. And those are just gonna get folded. The reason I kept stubs is because I like for the very tip to get folded all the way around the top and then get tucked underneath these wires. So it's tucked and out of the way and it's not pokey, because nobody likes pokey jewelry. So here we have our nub, and the goal is to wrap it around and tuck it underneath this wire right here, right? And I'm gonna try my needle nose pliers with the rounded fingers. What I do is I tip the pliers to the tip of the wire, right? And then pinch and curl. So now I've created, you see a little hook there. And that hook, it makes it easier when I switch back to my flats. I'm just gonna tuck that hook in. Good night. And it's underneath, so there's no pokey tip now. Well, except for that pokey tip, but that's a different wire. Anyways, okay, so we've got that. Now these originally, these over wires, right? So one, let me say that again. 1 and 2, they're starting to look like under wires now. And in fact, they're gonna go, actually, is that, let's see. Sorry, I forgot the style for a second, I just learned it. I think that makes sense. Yes, so they are gonna go under. So these over wires, they follow all the way through and actually go under the bead. And remember, we don't want to get these wires twisted up as we do this. So we want to make sure that they kind of stay in their formation. So now you can see I've successfully brought that over. Let me get these needle nose pliers to get you a better look at what I'm talking about. So you can see 1 and 2, these two wires. Well, let's pull these out of the way for a second to get you not confused. Okay, so the over wires, right? They went over and then they weaved under and then they came out here. So we'll do that same thing on the other side. Right? Over wires, 1 and 2 on the top, they're gonna weave right in there, right through that hole, and then come out on this end. So we'll do that now. Making sure not to get the wires twisted. Or if they do get twisted, that's fine. You can just untwist them before you get to the next step. There we go. So that's what it looks like, right? Looks kind of suave, which is exactly what we want. Okay, now to deal with these underwires that got woven. This one's a little tip right there. So I'm just gonna pinch down tip of the pliers to the tip of the wire and curl a little hook. And the intention of this curl, see that little curl, is that these 4 coils that I did are not gonna slide off the end because they're really close to the end, right? And then I'll just kind of tuck that guy in. And in fact, I'm gonna just bring the other wire over and around that one, so to cover up the pokey tip. And then with this, I'll forget about this for a second. I just want to get these 2 out of the way because now they're in the way. And I just wrap them around the band. And in fact, I like the length of this one. This one's a little bit too long for me, so I'll pull that one up and then give it a little clip. And then I can just continue wrapping those around the band, right? This is the band, and then they're just kind of right between the stone and where the band ends. Just kind of finish off there. Making sure that there's no pokey tips underneath. Now we can finish off with this one, and might even add a little bit of a style, right? So we can kind of see how this wire, it bends around and then it goes like that, right? Kind of like a figure 8. So we're just gonna really enunciate that figure 8 by adding a little curl here and see if we like. We're just playing around right now to see if we like this style. I'm gonna keep it for now, but if it seems to be bothersome, then I might get rid of it. Now we'll switch over to this side, and this time, instead of starting with these 2 wires, the 2 that were bottom wires that came out on top, we're gonna start with the top wires that weaved to the bottom and then around the band. These 2 guys are a lot longer than I need them to be, so I'm gonna clip them both, leaving just 2 nubs. And the idea is that those nubs can fully come around this band and then get tucked underneath and tucked away, no pokey tips. All right. Now these 2 wires are the last to remain. What to do with them? Really anything you want. If you want to come up with your own stylish finish, I fully support you. Or we could do a finish together. So I'm kind of tuck that guy in. You know what we'll do? We'll just continue to wrap around the band as well, just like we did with the other 2. Making sure that they don't get twisted, and then we'll clip off the extra that we don't need. So we have all our little shavings here, and then We'll just bring these guys down flat and then round them over the band. Making sure there are no pokey tips. All right, now I have a feeling this is kind of shrunk and that it's not gonna be a size 7, but we can always stretch it. All right, so we've made it to 6, and then if we really want, we can, I've seen somebody get like a hammer or something, just kind of nick this, tap it so that the ring continues to slide all the way down to 7. But this ring is not specifically for anyone in particular, so I could be fine at a 6 or a 6.5. And in fact, I did decide to change my mind on this little curly tip. I don't like that, and I will bring this instead around the band. And then once it wraps one time around the band, oh, I hit my camera stand. Did you see that I didn't do my hair today? I don't know. All right, so then we are almost done. Just kind of finalizing so that there's no pokey tip. And we'll put that back on. And then we have a ring. Now it looks like this one kind of, I think because it kind of shrunk, it actually did end up being more of a bead that protrudes rather than rests in the ring. But that's my video. That's my video. Probably stay tuned for the next one, and I'll get really into it, and hopefully the finished product comes out a little better as well. But I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope that your rings look amazing, and bye for now.